Hey, it's your boy two-way Raymondo Williams.
And it's your girl Chinyere Okafor, otherwise known as Chi-Chi.
We are the duo as part of Spinning Blackfist, which is one of the many programs on the Kings of Sport Network. And you're about to listen to another one exclusively brought to you by the Kings of Sport Network. Yes, indeed. We're going to give you just a little taste. And if you like what you hear, then go ahead and check on the Patreon to hear the full episode. Head on over to patreon.com/the Kings of Sport right now. Go ahead, head over there right now to hear the episode and over 300 hours of audio and video content. And with that, let's get to the show.
Let's get it.
Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
So Nate, we've reached one of our final ports for this part of the trip. What do you want to do next? There's like a couple more tournaments that we can check out. There's a training ground over here. I don't know what they're training in, but you all right, dude?
I'm not feeling too hot, Brent. I don't know if it was that mysterious drink that I drank on the boat. I checked to make sure it wasn't Anaconda malt liquor, but it had a very malt licorice taste to it. So I don't know if it's that or if it's the fact that we sat through American Ninja that has me feeling some type of way, Brent. So I don't know if we can find like a doctor's office or a pharmacy or hell, even a pub. I'll go to a bar right now, Brent. Is there a bar here on Kung Fu Island?
What you need is a little bit of the hair of the dog that bit you. And look over there.
Parks Pub. Interesting. It's a very homely looking pub in the middle of Kung Fu Island. You know what, Brent? I'm intrigued. Let's go inside and see what Parks Pub has to offer.
Oh, welcome to Parks Pub, gentlemen. How can I serve you? You happen to be
Wait. W.H. Park? Is that you?
Oh my God, is that you, Nate Milton? I couldn't recognize you. You're so ashen.
I had a rough time. Brent and I are here on summer vacation. Brent's here too, by the way.
I see Brent. Brent, do you have those comic books I ordered?
No.
Oh, well, you have to leave then. No. Nate, you can stay.
Brent, thank you, W.H.
You can leave.
I've got them at the store. I just didn't bring them with me. You know, water and comics don't really mix together.
That's why they have bags. You can, tape and a board, and you can seal them up. You know, come on.
He's got you there, Brent.
SMH.
Well, look, you can yell at Brent later, W.H. Park,
Sure.
But the real reason we're here, first of all, why are you here? Why are you on Kung Fu Island, man? I thought you lived in Toronto.
No, man. I heard about this place, Kung Fu Island, from you guys of all on this show, and I thought, wonder if there's any real estate opportunities there, business opportunities, and I thought maybe Kung Fu Island needs a place where you can buy drinks and eat poutine. That's the only food we serve here.
Ooh,
poutine.
That's even better. I don't think you understand, W.H. Park, how much I love poutine. I haven't had a good bowl of poutine in almost a decade, my friend.
Well, all the gravy is unfortunately, we don't have any land mammals, so it's all seafood based with gravy.
Interesting.
Gravy, trout gravy.
Okay.
The stock is basically fish bones or crab shells. So, hope you're enjoying that. It's pretty good still, I gotta say.
Okay, so we've got this poutine here. We've got some good drinks here at Parks Pub. WH, Brent and I have been on this crazy summer vacation, as you well know. We're here at Kung Fu Island. we've had a couple stops along the way. This is our last stop for this vacation. So you want to hang out on this last leg with us?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, this is awesome because, like, if you think about it, the makeup of this show, this episode, is very much similar to the makeup of the cast of the movie we're going to talk about.
Man, W.H. Park, you come straight out of a comic book.
Fellas, we going on a boat ride to Kung Fu Island.
Every 5 years, the best fighters in its ranks would face each other in full contact, with one winner emerging as the superior warrior, the champion.
The American Ninja.
American! What do you want?
It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
Welcome to Kung Fu Island, aka Brent and Nate's excellent excursion. This has been the craziest summer vacation of my life, Brent Chittenden, but I'm glad that I spent it with you, my friend. And this leg of the journey, we've got W.H. Park with us, Brent.
Yeah, thank you for coming aboard, WH, on this last leg where we talk about probably the most important martial arts movie ever made, like in terms of setting things up for like everything that comes after. Like we'll get into it later, but you look at the cast of this, even in the background, there's a bunch of people who go on to very significant careers in kung fu movies afterwards.
Yeah. I think it's probably the most prominent martial arts film of my youth, and like, you know, the one that everyone talked about, you know, as I was getting into movies, people like talk about, of course, Bruce Lee. And then what's his most famous movie? It's the last one he made, which is Enter the Dragon, the last full one. We don't really count Game of Death because that's kind of a posthumous movie that the studio made as a, you know, as like, oh, we got all this footage, let's use it and exploit his death, which is called Bruceploitation, by the way, the death of Bruce Lee, and the mania it created for like more films related to Bruce Lee, whether they were or not. And that's but so Enter the Dragon is the movie you guys wanted to review with me, and I was like, sure. I haven't watched it in like 25 years, so I thought it'd be a great chance to just go revisit it. And I have to say, it has its charm in a second viewing after so many years, but also has a lot of things where I'm just like shaking my head, but in a good way, I suppose.
Here's the thing. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we saved the best for last. And again, to echo Brent and WH's sentiments, we're going to talk about arguably like, you can make an argument it's one of the best martial arts films ever made. But what I don't think you can make an argument for, Brent, is that there is a martial arts film that is more important than this one, that is more influential than this one, at least when you're talking about a Western audience. Because this is kind of the picture that started the whole ball rolling. And of course, we are talking about Enter the Dragon from 1973, ladies and gentlemen, produced by Golden Harvest and distributed in America by Warner Brothers, one of the rare Warner Brothers dubs that Brent gets to talk about lately. Given the current slate of things, full disclosure, we are recording this on the Monday after Joker 2 released. And the less said about your boy Todd Phillips, the better, Brent.
Didn't see the first one, not seeing the second one.
Not even for the musical numbers?
I don't even mind Lady Gaga. Just
She's probably
no
the best
interest.
part of that movie. I haven't seen it yet, but from all the reviews I've seen, she's not bad.
Yeah, I was out with a friend last night, and she told me apparently Lady Gaga's in like approximately 30 minutes of the movie, and then that was at that point I was like, okay, I'm definitely out now. If it's in 2 hours, maybe I'll catch it on streaming, but like, yeah. So back to the task at hand, however.
What a task it is, Brent.
Do either of you guys remember the first time you saw this movie?
For me, it would have been on VHS. I don't ever recall it being on television that I can remember that I would have caught it on. So probably in the 80s. Because I was watching a lot of what kind of the movies you guys were talking about on VHS. So like, for example, like the previous installment, you talked about American Ninja, the classic starring Michael Dudikoff and Steve James. You guys could probably go down a big Steve James rabbit hole in the future. I Delta Force alone and its multiple
I'm gonna
sequels.
get you, sucker.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah. But yeah, like, so this would have been like in the 80s, like, my family gets a VCR, cost probably at the time, close to $1,000 back then. It's like, now I could probably find a pretty decent working one in the trash and someone's like on the curb or something like that.
Yeah.
And so would rent it from my local video store and just watch it and be like, wow, I finally get to watch, this legendary movie with Bruce Lee. Because like a lot of his other films I remember seeing on television, right? Like Fist of Fury, for example, The Big Boss under its American title, and so like Enter the Dragon, I think because there is a bit of nudity in it, it wasn't necessarily always available for consumption on television. I'm sure they edited it. I just don't remember. Yeah. I think the first time I did watch it was on VHS.
So for me, WH, the first time I actually saw this movie, it was on television. But so I'd seen this movie because we used to have a thing down here in Virginia every Saturday from like noon up until about 5 o'clock, Kung Fu Theater. And they would just put like one or two Kung Fu movies on and just no connection between these films. It was just the films that the station was able to get, the rights for or whatever. And so like it was their big thing every December. Like I guess they ponied up enough money to be able to air Enter the Dragon. And so they made a big to-do about it. This is like UHF TV back in the day, kids. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't know nothing about that rabbit ear lifestyle where you had to move the antenna just to get a clear picture. So like this is, again, like UWH, this is probably mid-'80s. So I'm seeing bits and pieces of Enter the Dragon because they always waited to air Enter the Dragon at the end of the marathon. And so like I was never able to stay up for the whole thing. So I'd seen like the beginning and I'd seen like the end a bunch of times, but I'd never seen the movie all the way through until 1996. So I was in high school. I believe this would have been my junior year. And I was on the football team. I wasn't very good. But one of my best friends was also on the football team and he wasn't very good either. And his name was James Chi. And James Chi was Filipino. And I obviously am not Filipino. And so like I would go over to his house after practice. He'd come over to my house. And it was like this weird friendship / cultural exchange program. Because James Chi had never had soul food before. And I had never had lumpia before. WH Park. And that was kind of the beginning of that friendship. We're still friends to this day. But he was the first cat that introduced me to anime. You know what I mean? He was the first cat that put me on to Lupin the Third or Ninja Scroll, Fist of the North Star, stuff like that. And then he was like, yo, you ever seen this Bruce Lee movie called Enter the Dragon? I was like, I've heard of it. I've seen little bits and pieces. I ain't never seen the whole thing. Well, I've got it on DVD. And again, DVD in the mid-'90s, not a cheap prospect. So they went all out for this, Brent Chittenden. But again, to this film's credit, and I don't know who to give credit to. Is it Warner Brothers? Is it whoever? But every time this film is put on a different medium, like it never really seems to lose quality. Whether it's VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, now I guess they put out a 4K release last year. like it always still looks the same. But yeah, like we watched it, fell in love with it. Like obviously, this is to me, Brent, every movie we've talked about on this series owes a debt of gratitude to this film because there's so many tropes. There's so many things that are kind of commonplace in all of these films that you can trace the roots back to this. And you know, obviously the cast is great. We'll talk about the cast as we go on, Brent, but like Bruce Lee is at his peak, at his apex. Unfortunately, the end was closer than we thought at the time, or he thought at the time, because I wasn't alive. I wasn't around back then, Brent. But Roper and Williams, like just that trio, I think that was the thing that I felt most this time around, Brent, because I watched it last week, and then this morning I watched like some bonus content, behind the scenes type of stuff, and I'm like, they could have got a bunch of mileage out of just those guys, just in different scenarios, solving crimes and beating people up.
Yeah.
And we would have been there every time for the film. So yeah, Enter the Dragon is great. I'm going to tell you about 100 more times this week how great it is. But when was the first time you saw it, Brent?
I'm pretty sure that I saw it similar to you. Toronto station called that was called CFMT used to do a very similar thing, except like on a weekend basis. I want to say it was like every Saturday night, kind of late night, they would play kung fu movies, and it was usually bad like copies of, you know, the ones that they could get away with basically stealing and not paying for, like, you know, like Eagle Fist and like Tiger Crane and stuff like that. And then one day they had Enter the Dragon, which compared to those, because it was, you know, it came from a North American distributor in part, it just looked so much better than the ones I had been watching before. Like, never mind, like, even like the action or Bruce Lee or anything like that. Just on like a basis of like, this doesn't look like it was like taped from like somebody's Betamax and then put on another tape and then put on. That like it just like had such a good look to it. And the thing that struck me then is one of the things that strikes me now is just the sheer charisma of both like Bruce Lee and Jim Kelly in this movie. Like we'll probably get into it a lot more, but like those guys like were stars. Like on that screen, they just like pop. And unfortunately, we don't really get to see what Bruce could have done after that, because he dies, I want to say it's like halfway through Game of Death, maybe not even that, but he leaves a legacy enough of like what WH mentions of like the Bruceploitation films, where you get any guy who remotely looks like Bruce Lee, and they just name him like Bruce Lee with different spellings of Lee, or Bruce Lie, or anything they can just sort of get away with. And I can't remember if it's Game of Death or if it's another movie where they literally put a cardboard cutout of Bruce Lee's face on like another actor.
That's Game of
Death. And then he gets like disfigured or something, so they can like take it off afterwards and explain why he looks different.
That movie is so heartbreaking. like damn, like the only thing I like about that movie is Bruce and Kareem, because that's amazing. Everything else about that movie is just like WH said, it's like you're almost desecrating Bruce Lee's memory because he wouldn't want that film out there in that condition.
Yeah, so first of our tangents, loyal listeners, they have just, I can't remember who it is, it might be Arrow Video, just remastered and re-edited that footage into not so much a movie, but like a special feature, because apparently there was like, while the movie wasn't finished, there was also a lot of footage that wasn't used, I guess, to try and cobble a story together. And they just put something out like last year of it, and apparently it's like really interesting and like kind of again a look into things that could have been.
I gotta say, Brent, your description of like the footage on CFMT sounds like the program director did not discover the wonders of Pacific Mall on the outskirts of Scarborough and Toronto. If you know, you know.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? The Spinning Black Fist crew back again, and we hope that you enjoyed just that little taste of the podcast. If you want to hear more, go ahead and sign up again on that Patreon. Go ahead on over to patreon.com/the Kings of Sport to hear this episode and over 300 hours of audio and video content. And while you're over there on these internet streets, go ahead and be sure to also sign up for the Kings of Sport YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. For everybody here at the Kings of Sport Network, it's your boy, Two-Way Ray Williams.
And the one and only Chi-Chi, the maestro.
We thank you for listening. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your feedback. And we appreciate you for being down with the kings and queens.
Exactly.